In this episode, we talk about all the comic book goodness that is coming to TV. We discuss why Warner Brothers couldn't find their ass with both hands and a map, and I complain about my neighbours. Welcome to Giant Size Fan Thing. Hello and welcome to Giant Size Fan Thing. I am your host, the Mighty Shanman. Welcome to our kickoff episode, our very first episode. This is my very first episode ever. I've never done a podcast before. I'm quite excited to get stuck into this. Now, please forgive any ambient or background noise you may hear. I have new neighbours moving in, and they've already proved themselves to be a bunch of assholes. Well, they'll fit in well in this building. The only neighbours I have that I like are the ones I had to call the cops on. I really wish I was making that up. Anyway, it's been a pretty big week for me. To start off with, this is the second time I've had to record this episode. The first episode that I recorded, I listened to it back and I sounded terrible because I had just gotten out of the hospital after getting my wisdom teeth removed. I sounded like I was drowning. Okay, so what's been going on this week? Well, first of all, we had the premiere of the first episode of Season 3 of Flash, the Flash TV show. I am a very big fan of this show. I love it. And after the end of Season 2, which was a massive tearjerker and then like a massive cliffhanger as well with Barry, spoilers by the way, Barry going back in time and saving his mother from reverse Zoom, I was very much looking forward to this season premiere. Episode wasn't bad, wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But it sort of sets things up for the rest of the season. I've kind of gotten used to these shows being a little bit slow. They take some time to warm up and really get into it, but nonetheless, I really enjoy them. Also, this week was the first episode of Arrow. Now, I will admit I didn't see it. I'm a season behind with Arrow at the moment. I haven't seen any of Season 4 yet. Season 3 was a little bit of a hard slog for me. I had trouble getting through that, but it really wasn't capturing my attention. It really wasn't holding me in there. I'll get around to seeing Season 4 eventually. I'm waiting for the Blu-rays to go on sale before I pick them up, and then I'll watch that then, and then I'll eventually get into Season 5. I also just watched the trailer, which they just released for the 4-show crossover. So that's Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, which is now part of the CW, which is great. I'm really happy that Supergirl is now going to be part of that universe. And I got to admit, it looks quite cool. It looks quite exciting. I didn't get all the way through the last season of Legends of Tomorrow. Once again, like Season 3 of Arrow, it just wasn't holding my attention. I liked the character designs. I like a lot of the portrayals of the characters. But just something about the show, I missed an episode and I never bothered to go back and catch up on it. But who knows? Like the new season looks quite cool. I mean, they've got the Justice Society in there. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the depictions of some of the characters. They don't have some of the characters I would have loved to have seen in there, like the Alan Scott Green Lantern and the Jay Garrick Flash. But they've got Stargirl in there. They've got Owlman. I've always been a huge Owlman fan. I don't know why. It's not like I've really read a lot of his stories. Not the Rex Tyler version. There was a great series they did of Owlman. Oh, man, we're going back now. It's probably like in the 2000s sometime. That focused on a robotic ancestor of Rex Tyler. And he came back to our time to he knew how to be a superhero, but he didn't know how to be a human being, so he wanted to learn. And he learnt from hanging out with Snapper Carr. Sorry, just adjusting my microphone there. And it was a really, really good series. There was the usual sort of superheroics in it, but there was these fantastic human moments that, just really brought something new to the superhero dynamic. It wasn't just like, to reverse it that way, to like be exploring what it takes for a superhero to be a human was a really unique take. It was drawn, the art was done by Rags Morales, who's a monumental artist. He's just incredible. Rags went on to do the art for Identity Crisis, which was that wonderful Justice League story that was very, very human. Delved into the death of... Who was it? Oh, that's right. It was the death of Sue Dibney, wife of the Elongated Man. But it revealed all these incredibly human moments for all the Justice League characters. There's a bit of controversy about that story, if I remember rightly, because it was revealed that Sue Dibney was raped by Dr. Light during the Justice League International's career, I think it was. But I digress slightly, yes. I was talking about CW shows, wasn't I? So Flash, I think it's nicely set up. I'm really hoping things pick up a little bit. I think they should have stuck around with the Flashpoint universe a little bit more, but, you learn to live. Arrow, I got to catch up. Legends of Tomorrow, once again, I've got to catch up, but I think there's some interesting stuff for the new one. Oh, I forgot to talk about Supergirl. As I said earlier, Supergirl has been integrated into the CW universe, so she's going to be appearing as part of that universe now. She's also going to be appearing in the 4-part crossover between all 4 shows. I like Supergirl. It's a little bit girly. I don't like their depiction of Jimmy Olsen at all. I really, really don't. First of all, he's black, so what? That is not the thing about it that I don't enjoy. What I don't enjoy is... I don't know. It's like Jimmy Olsen was never as confident as this guy is portraying him. But also, he has made requests and he's had a few situations where... like he was telling... He told Supergirl that he was going to reveal Supergirl's actual identity to his girlfriend, saying that he had to do it to save the relationship. Jimmy would never do that. Absolutely, Jimmy Olsen would never, ever compromise either Superman or Supergirl's identity for his own love life, for crying out loud. I mean, like Luther could torture him to within an inch of his life, he wouldn't reveal it. So it's just like, I want to get out of this fight with my girlfriend. I'm going to reveal your deepest secret. Kind of a dick move, and that little element is running right throughout the character. I really don't like how they're depicting Jimmy. Moving on. In other news this week, another fantastic thing has hit television. HBO has started screening their new Westworld series. They released the first episode to see for free. It was available online. This show is fantastic. Well, this first episode is absolutely fantastic. I really think we have a new Games of Thrones getting set up with this show. They managed, once again, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, turn off for a few minutes, fast forward so you don't get ruined by the surprises in this show. But they've managed so beautifully to set up the world. the characters. They've thrown a couple of little twists into it that I didn't see coming. Like the whole opening of the show, using what's his name? He played Cyclops in the early X-Men movies. I can't remember his name, but he seems to play this straight-laced cowboy character who you swear blind is a guest. The way they introduce him, the way the whole thing plays is like you swear blind he's a guest. And then Ed O'Neill is playing the Black Hat. He's playing the gunslinger character, famously portrayed by Yul Brynner in the original film. And once again, it's like they turn things around, they twist and turn, and it's revealed that this character is not one of the hosts, as they call them, one of the robots that work in the world. But you could have swore blind he was. And his story is fascinating. I was lucky enough to be able to watch the second episode just before I was recording this. And, there's a storyline going there that I really want to see how it plays out. The whole show, in fact, it's really, really well done. Also, the new season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has started up. I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., okay? I think it's a cool show. A lot of people complain about it being boring, but I think that's what they can do with that show. You know, there's a lot of the character moments and a lot of the human sort of stuff, and it's kind of the paperwork side of the Marvel universe. You know, it's kind of it is the boring side of it, but that doesn't mean it's not an interesting side of it. This season, they've upped the ante. They've introduced Ghost Rider into the series. The effects for Ghost Rider look really, really good. They've done the flaming head and the skull look like it works. And it looks a lot better than the Nicolas Cage version. Another big change from the Nicolas Cage version of Ghost Rider is this is not Johnny Blaze. This is not the stunt driver on the motorcycle. This is the current comic version of the character, whose name is Robbie Reyes, I think. Possibly should have looked that up before I started, but anyway. Robbie Reyes is, I think, Puerto Rican. And he drives this black muscle car instead of the traditional motorcycle. And it's a very interesting dynamic as well. We have the character of Quake, Sky or Daisy or whatever the hell her name is now. She seems to be trying to punish herself for whatever she did in the last season. Off on her own, running away from S.H.I.E.L.D. And then you've got this dynamic of this new Ghost Rider character who just seems to be a little bit of a monkey wrench in the plans of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's more going on with S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. They have a new director. Coulson's been fired or demoted. I still like the character of Agent Coulson. Not as fanatically as I did back when he was part of Avengers. I loved Coulson. I really did. I thought he was excellent. I even have a T-shirt for crying out loud with Agent Coulson on it. I think the show has diminished him a little bit. I can't even really describe why I think that, but I think it has taken away some of the awesomeness about him. But he still is a cool character. He still is a fun character. There's a few other characters in that show that are pretty cool and keep you coming back. But I do enjoy the show. I really do. I think it was a big disappointment, just to digress again. Yeah, you're going to find I do that a lot. What was I talking about? I don't know, because now I'm talking about something else. But anyway, I do think it was a massive disappointment that they didn't decide to do a season 3 of Agent Carter. I think Agent Carter was one of the best shows that Marvel had done. Well, it was a lot better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought it was a really good show. I started to say that and I realized, but what about all the Netflix stuff? All of which I love. I think Daredevil was fantastic, unexpectedly fantastic. As much as I like the Daredevil Season 2, I don't think it was as strong as the first one, but you get that. I have really got to learn to stop saying every time I think. You don't realize what a bad habit that is until you start doing a podcast and listen to yourself talk back. But what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. An unexpected delight was Jessica Jones. That show was just ground level creepy. David Tennant, who literally is just doing the Doctor. It's the same voice he puts on for the Doctor. It's the same. He's pretty much playing the same character, except it's a dark spin on the character. But he does creepy so well. He really does. He gives you nightmares in that show. And that ability he has to make anyone do anything just by telling them to do it. What a superpower. You're both coveted and terrified of it at the same time. And what's the latest? Oh, yeah, Luke Cage has just started up. I'm not all the way through Luke Cage yet. I am enjoying it. It's quieter than the other ones. I think the first episode was nowhere near as strong a first episode as either a season of Daredevil or Jessica Jones. But it is going quite strongly, and the storyline does get you in as you keep going with the episodes. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and finish watching it recently. Too much other stuff going on. Man, it is such a great time to be a fan, like a fan of all of these pop culture characters. I remember when I was a kid, it's like there was nothing like this. You didn't hear a damn thing. And now there is so much stuff coming out. It's on TV, and there's movies, and there's directs to DVD, and there's Netflix, and there's streaming. It's just, there's so much of it, and it's fantastic, majorly speaking, which is a really beautiful way to lead on to our main part of this podcast. Alrighty, so first up, before we go into this, I need to explain a little bit about me. I am a massive superhero fan. I love comics. I love comic books. I love superhero characters. I always have. I saw the Christopher Reeve Superman movie when I was a kid and loved it. Still loved it. Still love it to this day. But I didn't really get into the comics until after the Tim Burton Batman movie back in '89. That movie just had a very profound effect on me. I really loved it. And I became a massive Batman fan for years. But something happened around about the death of Superman storyline. So this is going way back to 1992, 93, I'm guessing. I think it would have been 92 because I was just starting college. I started reading Superman comics. Now, before this, I couldn't imagine Superman working in a comic book, which I know sounds idiotic. Superman got his start in comic books, for crying out loud. So, of course, he works in a comic book. But it didn't work in my head that Superman in a comic book. So when The Death of Superman came out, I was intrigued by it, so I started picking them up, started reading them. And I'd forgotten how much I love the character of Superman. And I have been a rabid Superman fan ever since. I collected his comics for, it was a good 10 years, for crying out loud. I think I only stopped because I went broke. I have a massive collection of Superman action figures. I have rabidly go and see anytime there's a Superman movie or animated feature or anything like that. Heck, I even, for my 30th birthday, commissioned my very own Superman suit. I don't look like Superman at all. Okay, I'm bald, I've got a goatee, I'm skinny as heck, but I still have my own Superman suit. And because of this love of Superman and Batman, I developed a love of the DC universe. With the exception of a few characters, I love the DC universe. And I'm a massive fan of the Justice League. I absolutely adore the Justice League, especially when they have the Big Seven in there. Now, by the Big Seven, I mean Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman, and this is going to mess with everybody who ever watched the cartoon, Martian Manhunter. With that said, I am not looking forward to anything that Warner Brothers or DC has slated for their cinematic universe. And it's their fault. Now, this week, just today actually, so it's probably going to be a few days by the time you get to listen to this, they released some behind-the-scenes footage from the Justice League movie. And all of this footage just shows all the cast, and especially the crew, just having fun and enjoying themselves. There's a fantastic piece, I hope you get to see it, of Jason Momoa as Aquaman, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and Ezra Miller as Flash on a green screen stage, and it looks like they're filming getting ready to go in the battle. They've all got the battle stance ready. And Jason Momoa is doing some sort of trick where he's trying to spin his trident. He looks like Aquaman is going to be very tricky with his trident in this film. And he screws it up. He massively screws it up. You know, he spins it wrong and he misses it and it falls to the ground. But he doesn't care. He throws up a spin kick and he throws a punch and he's all ready to go. And he turns and looks at Wonder Woman. And she's got a sword and a scabbard on her back. He pulls out that sword and charges in a battle. Now, Gal, beautiful lady that she is, she bursts out laughing. Ezra's laughing. Everybody's having a wonderful time. It's a fantastic clip. You know, it just shows there is a great camaraderie behind these actors. It looks like they've had a lot of fun on set making this film. It seems to be a lot lighter in tone than what they've shown previously. Now, before this, a few months back, in time with the San Diego Comic-Con, they released the first footage from the Justice League film, which showed Bruce Wayne, played brilliantly by Ben Affleck. He is doing such a great job as Batman, recruiting other members. Shows that little moment of him talking to Aquaman, or talking about Aquaman, about a man arriving on the King's Tide. And then that little comedic scene with Barry Allen in his little Fortress of Solitude, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it the Flash Cave. I don't think that'll really work too much. What would you call the Flash's base of operations? Like, you know, the lightning strike or something? I don't know. Anyway, and it showed a few more moments they'd filmed. Like, it showed Cyborg for the first time. It showed Flash moving. It showed the fact that Superman wasn't with them. Anyway, and it was a well-made clip, you know, and it does show that there are a few more lighter moments and the tones changing and improving and stuff like that. And I liked watching the clip and it made me excited temporarily. But then I got the copy of the Blu-ray of Batman v Superman. This was the extended edition. And I sort of realized that they've destroyed it for me. You know? They're putting so much effort into trying to convince people that, yes, we have fixed it. Yes, we are going in the right direction now. That is obvious that they have no friggin' clue about what direction they're going in. Now, let's go back a little bit. Let's examine the whole thing. So there's been 3 films in the DC cinematic universe so far. Okay? It started with Man of Steel, which was the Superman reboot. Now, from what I've read, this was never meant to be the start of a new cinematic universe. They just wanted to see if they could do another Superman movie. The original idea was created by Christopher Nolan when they were trying to come up with ideas for a sequel to The Dark Knight. It was pitched to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers liked it. They decided they're going to go that way. Nolan didn't want to direct it. They got in Zack Snyder to oversee it. Nolan still had a finger in. He was keeping an eye on things. And the world got Man of Steel. Now, I like Man of Steel. I think it's a good film. It does have its flaws. It is dark. It is brooding. When the world realizes that Superman and Batman are not the same goddamn character, they'll finally do one of these films properly. But I enjoy the film, and I spent probably a good 2 years defending that film to everyone who wanted to start an argument. And the minute you say to someone, I like Man of Steel, they automatically want to start a freaking argument, you know? Actually, anytime you admit to people that you're a Superman fan, they want to start an argument. Or they ask you one of the stupid questions. And anyone who's a Superman fan, and you're all thinking this in your head right now, one of these three questions. It's, how does Lois Lane not know it's Clark Kent just because he's wearing glasses? How did the people of Krypton not get sick walking around on the ground all day because the planet's made of kryptonite? And why does Superman wear his underwear on the outside? Now, they solved the problem of the last question. They got rid of his goddamn underwear on the outside. And I like the new look. I like the Man of Steel costume. I think they did a great job of it. I like the new 52 costume, Superman costume that got rid of the underwear on the outside. And I also like the current rebirth version of Superman that once again does not have the underwear on the outside. Now that I see old images of Superman and he's wearing the red trunks, it looks kind of weird. You know, you do realize just how kind of silly that look was. But there was a reason for that costume design for 75 years. But I believed in the film. I believed in Man of Steel. I thought it was a good film. And when they announced that that was going to be their step-off point for a new DC cinematic universe where they were going to try and catch up to Marvel. And let's face it, that's what the DC universe is trying to do at the moment. They're trying to catch up with what Marvel has created. I thought Man of Steel was a good stepping-on point. So as I said, there's been 3 films. There was Man of Steel. Recently this year, the 3rd film was released, Suicide Squad. Yes, I'm avoiding that second one. I'll get back to that. Now, Suicide Squad was a really strange pick for this early in their cinematic universe because they're making a film about the villains before they've actually established the heroes. As people know, in BVS, they had the quick touch on, they brought in Batman, they brought in Wonder Woman, you had the quick moments with Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg. But the characters are not established, and they're not established the way that the Avengers were before the Avengers film came out. Sorry, back to Suicide Squad. It wasn't a bad film, but it wasn't a good film. You know, it was entertaining enough, but it was a mess. It was all over the place. You know, you'd have these really dark, sinister moments, and then all of a sudden they'd throw in a Roxxon and Harley does something strange. So tonally, it was a little bit of a mess. And if you're a fan of this stuff, you would have heard all the stories about the behind the scenes. They were reacting to the Batman v Superman blowout. And they've recut the film and they've shot new scenes and they've tried to change it after the movie was made. Which never works. It's such a stupid thing to do. For the simple reason that you're trying to change the vision after the vision's been realized. You know, if you didn't like the idea, don't make it in the first place. You know, fix it in pre-production. Don't fix it in post. That famous phrase that every filmmaker makes and just fucking regrets later. Now, Suicide Squad made a lot of money. It did quite well at the box office. You know, people have enjoyed it, gone out to it, and every time you go to a convention, there are 1,000,001 Harley Quinns walking around the place. You know, I'm sure it's a Comic-Con drinking game now, where you take a shot every time you see a Harley Quinn. Of course, if you do play this game, you're going to wind up with liver poisoning. Anyway, moving on. Now, I have reserved the second film for last because it is the one that I am reserving the most amount of anger, bile, and resentment for. Batman v Superman. This goddamn film. This film, no matter what will go down in history as having probably the most idiotic Deus Ex Machina moment ever put into a film. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about the Martha moment, where if you haven't seen the film, more power to you. But essentially what happens is for the first 3/4 of the film, Batman is 100% obsessed and dedicated towards removing this threat that he sees in Superman. He believes he's the only man who can take down this alien with all this power and remove him from the world stage before he becomes more of a problem than he is. Now, as we all know, Batman's a little bit of an obsessive character, okay? The guy dresses up as a bat and beats the crap out of people he doesn't like, all right? So he's not really all that much of a wishy-washy personality. But we get to this moment where they've had a really crappy fight. It's terrible. And it's just meant to rip off the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, but we'll get into that in a minute. But after this fight, here he is. Batman has his kryptonite spear. He's got his boot on Superman's throat, and he's ready to kill him. When Superman says, "Save my mother, whose name is Martha." Now, it is a comic book coincidence that Bruce Wayne's mother was Martha as well. How inconsequential was this coincidence? Well, let's go back to that little bit of a history lesson about myself I said a moment ago. I have been collecting and reading comics with both Batman and Superman in them since I was 17 years old, so that's over 20-something years. And until I saw that movie, it never occurred to me that both of their mothers had the same name. Not once did I pick up on that fact. And that is because it is completely irrelevant. They were both created back in the 30s. They were both, Martha was a popular name back then, so they just used the name Martha. That's as far as it ever went. And for Batman to suddenly change his mind so radically just because of this idiotic coincidence, it's just so stupid. And the whole movie is based around that. And not the whole movie, the whole continuing saga of the Justice League is now based on that one moment. All right, everything that Batman does now in the Justice League films, every time he teams up with one of these characters, is all based on the fact that he had this massive change of heart just because his mother had the same name as this other guy. That's the worst part of that film, but it's not the only bad part of that film. All right, the cinematic version of the film is bad. All right, the extended edition that's, 3 hours long? I sat and watched it once. It improves the hell out of the first 2/3 of the film. In fact, it actually makes the film, right up to the point where Luthor throws Lois off the building, a lot better. Nothing is going to improve that last bit, though. From the minute Lois falls off, and then to the fight between Batman and Superman, and then the appearance of Doomsday, and everything from that moment on towards the end of the film, except for the appearance of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is fantastic. She's great in the film. But everything at the end of that film is just dreadful, and it's irredeemable. Now, Warner Brothers has defended themselves by saying, oh, but it made a lot of money. Yes, it made a lot of money. I mean, did you see the advertising for this film? It was everywhere. You felt like your life was actually in danger if you didn't go see this film. So a lot of people went and saw this film. But as we saw, it had the biggest drop-off in box office between opening weekend and second weekend in years. I mean, it had one of the highest drop-offs in cinematic history. And people will say, oh, big deal, what does that matter? That means the people who were excited about it went and saw the movie and told everybody else not to go and see it. Okay? So that's the quality of the film you're looking at. Now, as I said earlier, because of the negative reaction to Batman v Superman, the studio then freaked out with Suicide Squad and ordered all these new scenes shot and the film to be re-edited. They even hired the company that did the trailer for Suicide Squad, that great one that had all the rock and roll music in it, to come in and help with the recutting of the film. And you can tell because every single time those guys turn around, it's a whole new song shows up. I even got to a point while I was watching the movie just thinking, all right, enough with the damn songs. Can we actually watch the movie? And this is what is wrong with the entire universe, the entire DC cinematic universe. The next film we get, first of all, Justice League is coming out. I have no faith in that whatsoever, as I said earlier. I think it's going to suck. In fact, I know it's going to suck. Okay? I don't want to see it except for some sort of fanboy obligation. All right? I really wish they hadn't made that film. And I've been looking forward to a Justice League film my entire life. The next film after Justice League is Wonder Woman. Now, as I've said, Wonder Woman is being directed by a lady called Patty Jenkins. She's a phenomenal director. I'm really glad they got a female director on that film. I think she's going to do a fantastic job of directing. And Gal Gadot is magnificent as Wonder Woman. She really is. She's the second cinematic Wonder Woman ever. And she's right up there with Linda Carter. You know, she's fantastic in the role. I have a lot of faith in her as well. I have no faith in the movie at all. Because Warner Brothers is going to do the same thing with Wonder Woman that they've done with Suicide Squad and what they've trying to do with Justice League as well. And that is they're going to shit themselves just before the gate and go in and try and cut it and edit it to what they think the crowd wants. They think the audience wants, sorry. And it's going to ruin the film. And you're going to get the same level of negative feedback on Wonder Woman as you get in the others. And they're going to keep going. It's like they've already booked all these films. They're planning on making all of these films. And they're going to keep on reacting instead of making a plan and following it through. Now, recently they brought in Geoff Johns, the writer from DC Comics, who's now responsible for the rebirth of DC Comics. He's helping fix all the sins of the New 52. He has a lot more power on the set, and from some of the things I've heard, hopefully that'll help improve some of these films. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't want to see a Flash movie. Okay? I'm happy with the television show. Who the hell wants to see a Cyborg movie? Okay? No one. But from what I've heard, they're actually changing that around. Instead of it being Cyborg, it's going to be the Teen Titans. Don't quote me on that. Aquaman, yeah, that could be interesting, but then again, it might not be interesting. The best thing at this point in time that DC and Warner Brothers can do is quit. Is to stop completely, not make any of these damn films. To sit down, to plan it through, to actually have some idea of what they're going to do, and then maybe start up again. Of course, that's just my idea, but they're not going to do that. All right, because Avengers, the first Avengers movie, it was like the third highest grossing film of all time. And Warner Brothers are literally the only company out there that has characters, has the means to be able to do something similar to Avengers. Now, Warner Brothers hasn't been doing very well at all. All of their franchises have finished up. Harry Potter, finished. And as you can see, it's like, you know, they tried to get J.K. Rowling to write another script. That's the Cursed Child thing that was out in books just recently. The Fantastic Beasts, which is set in the Harry Potter world, is coming out soon. I'm sure all the fans will go and see it. But there's nothing more to be milked out of Harry Potter. Same with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was a massive Warner Brothers property. Yes, I know it was produced by New Line. New Line is now owned by Time Warner, so it is also a Warner Brothers property. But as we saw with the Hobbit trilogy of films, no one cares anymore. Peter Jackson, whose love child The Lord of the Rings was, didn't care. He phoned in those 3 movies. So that's not working for them anymore. They're desperately trying to get every single young teen novel out there that's even slightly similar to maybe Twilight or The Hunger Games or something like that and making it into a franchise. And none of them are working. Maze Runner's not working. Divergent wasn't working. What else have they got? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of these other stupid things that they keep on trying to push on us. And none of it's working. Warner Brothers is desperate for something to work. And literally, the only bullet they have for their gun is DC. And they're screwing it up completely. And the thing that makes me the saddest, that really upsets me, is that these movies that they're making are going to be some people's only interactions with the characters. That's their introduction. You know, this is the only Superman movie they're ever going to see. Justice League is the only time they're ever going to be introduced to the Justice League, any of that. And so once these films come out, and if they are going to continue with the same quality, and they're getting the same people to make them, they're getting the same writers to write them, they're all being overseen by Zack Snyder. Yeah, that's a great goddamn idea. So it's plausible to believe that they're all going to be of the same quality. Then they're not going to be enjoyable. They're not going to be movies that are going to be memorable and are going to stick in people's minds. So not only are they ruining this series of films, they're ruining the next series of films. It's going to be a good 20 to 25 years. You're going to have to wait for an entire generation of fans to die out and new ones to come in before they can attempt anything like this again, just to get the bad taste of all of these films out of their mouth. And that's a real tragedy, because as much as I am enjoying the Marvel slate of films, for me personally, DC has the better characters. And they have the characters that deserve good films. And for the studios to be just screwing things up so badly, simply in the names of trying to make money. And that's all they're doing at the moment. They're just trying to make money out of these films. They're not trying to make good films. They're trying to make money with films. For every single fanboy out there, it's heartbreaking to see how badly they're screwing this stuff up, and to see characters that they love so dearly become objects of scorn and ridicule rather than something that can be shared and celebrated. So anyway, that's it for the first episode of Giant Size Fan Thing. Be sure to hit subscribe for more episodes. You don't want to miss anything, or maybe you do. I'm not really sure. I don't know how well I went. Please leave us a message, or drop any suggestions or things you'd like to hear about. I do have more people coming in to talk on the show, so it's not just me talking all of the time. But I wanted to get this first one recorded by myself and get it out there. Until next time, this is the Mighty Shan Man signing off. I'm going to have to come up with a catchphrase. I mean, I was worried about a theme song all this time. I don't have a catchphrase to sign out with. I don't know. Greetings, Earthlings. To infinity and beyond. On that bombshell. We'll see what we come up with. Until next time, see you soon.